This is not communication. It's communion. Hundreds of thousands of people have claimed contact. That will change you. It changed me.
Lost in between two worlds and two dreams.
This was something that I kept buried for years. Strange things would happen. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
He came at me, and I fought for my life.
Ships started to pop up in the sky.
And there's this bizarre disk of light. And it is moving across the sky very fast.
The experience is often very terrifying.
If I felt fear, I would crawl under my covers, hoping that it would go away, whatever it was.
I know that we were put in that craft.
I knew I was going to go to another planet.
And the being was right next to my face.
He saw two shadow beings. That's when I felt like I was going to die.
I had a real encounter with something. Even if I had to live with the fear, is to know the truth, is to know.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode on Angela Petina Presents. I have a special guest from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, filmmaker John Yost. We will be discussing his latest documentary featuring film, Alien Abduction Answers. You will be amazed about all the experience that he explains during this documentary, but let's learn more about him on this interview. All right. Hi, John. How are you? Thank you for being on my show on Angela Petina Presents. How are you?
I'm very good, and I'm so blessed to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for me. And but I would like to know, before that, I want to explain the audience that you came up with a documentary about the UFO experience and answer, but the official name is Alien Abduction and Answers, that you can find in Amazon and in all the different platforms, which is going to be at the end of the video. And also, for those people who barely know or just learning about John Yost, he worked for the private sector, and also he has an extended career in the film industry for over 20 years as an actor, as a film director, producer, and all these things. So can you tell us about your experience at the age of 7 when you have a close encounter with the entity? This is something that you explain in your documentary.
Yes. This is a very hard thing for me. Mm-hmm. Not only because it is very emotional, but because you will find out that I had to lie about it for most of my life. Mm-hmm. When I was 7 years old, it was 1974, and it was August. Very hot night, and I awakened from sleep, and I heard this kind of buzz, this hum, like, and it woke me up. And so I sat on the edge of the bed, and I was a little disturbed. I couldn't go back to sleep, so I went to the bathroom, and I was getting some water. And I opened up the door when I was done in the bathroom. I opened up the door, and standing right in front of me, to my 7-year-old eyes, my little boy eyes, was a character that I had seen on television many times before. Mm-hmm. This character was in Japanese television called Ultraman. Mm-hmm. Now, in the show, he was this giant guy, and he was silver, and he had these huge eyes. But to me, he was my size. So I was a little boy, and he was just my height. And so I was not afraid in the beginning. And then we got very, very close. And I mean, Angela, I mean nose to nose. And then something happened. I started to feel the world fall out from underneath my feet. Like the way I describe it is, if you're in a very large swimming pool, and say the water is right here at your chin, and you know if you take another step, you'll slide underneath the water because it's too deep. That's the way it felt. And I became very afraid. And I started to struggle with this entity. And as we're struggling back and forth, there was this brilliant flash of light. And then I saw this kaleidoscope of colors, almost like being on a merry-go-round. Too fast, too fast. And then when I kind of came to my senses, we had switched places. No longer was Ultraman in the hallway. I was in the hallway, and his back was in the bathroom. And I didn't understand this, but I'm in the middle of fighting with him. And he reaches out with his right hand, and he touches me on my left shoulder. There's this tremendous flash of light. There's a lot of power, energy. I don't know. Electricity, maybe. I don't know. But it throws me back. And right behind me were these stairs made of hard wood. And I fell all the way down the stairs. And so I'm a little boy and I'm hurt. So I was screaming. You know, I was hurt and I was afraid. And my parents, who were on the first floor, they had a bedroom on the first floor. They came running out to say, you know, what is wrong? And I'm screaming, you know, I'm saying, you know, Ultraman is upstairs. And so I'm sure my father heard intruder. And so he runs up the stairs and he, you know, looking and looking, and he doesn't find anything. And so he was not happy with me. And so my parents take me up the stairs, and you know how parents are. They open up a closet, they show you there's nothing there.
Yes.
You look under the bed, there's nothing there. And they put me to bed. Well, the next day, remember it's August, so it's summer break, no school. So I'm out playing with my friends all day. I come in for dinner, and my mother says, listen, you have to take a bath before dinner because you are terrible. And I'm a little boy, and I don't want to take a bath, and my mother is struggling with me. And she takes off my T-shirt, and she's looking at the bruises, you know. And then she looks at my shoulder, and she says, honey, what's this? I look around, and I say, well, Mom, I told you. You know, Ultraman. And she looked very sad. She kissed me on the forehead. She said, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Well, a few days later, my father is taking me to the doctor, to the physician. And when we pull into the parking lot of the physician, he looks back at me and he says, now listen, when we get in there, I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about Ultraman. Keep that stuff to yourself. Well, you know, I love my dad. I was the eldest son. Of course, I would do whatever he said. So we go into the doctor, and the doctor's looking at my bruises, making sure there are no breaks, this sort of thing. And he gets to my shoulder and he says, hey, what's going on here, sport? And I said, well, and I could see my father in the corner. And I mean, you know, kids today are a lot different. But back in 1974, you didn't mess with your dad.
Exactly. No, it's true. It's true.
You did not cross your father. And so he was giving me the eye, you know. And I said, well, I fell, whatever. He said, okay. And so gave me a lollipop, sent me on my way. When we were coming home, my dad was pulling into the driveway of my family's home. And he looked back at me and he said, now listen, I never, ever, ever want to hear anything about this Ultraman thing again. I don't want you scaring your mother. I don't want you scaring your sisters. You just shut up about that. And you keep that to yourself. So I said, okay, Dad. Okay. So I lied about it forever. And I've had people ask me, well, you became, a teenager and an adult, and why didn't that change? Why didn't you? And I said, think about it this way. First of all, I lied about it all the time. So it became just routine. It was just a routine. And I say like this, you wear eyeglasses, right? So this morning you did not say, I will take my glasses out and I will put my glasses on. You never thought that. You just grabbed them and put them on. So, because it's a habit. It's just what happens. And so that's what happened to me, is it just became one of those things where, and I mean, when I tell you I played a lot of sports. So, you'd go to the locker room and you'd take your shirt off. I told people I was bit by a bear, a snake, I got shot, a tiger bit. I lied about, because, and this is very serious. That's kind of funny, but this is very serious. Anything would have been better at that point than to say, hey, I was abducted.
It's true.
Nobody wanted to hear that. And so I just kept that inside my entire life.
It's true, because I understand perfectly what you said, because I experienced kind of not too close what you experienced, but kind of, paranormal experience. And my dad, he always told me, it's in your imagination. It's in your imagination. I think it's part of our generation. I was born 1981, and I think older, 70s, 50s, 60s, we were programming that whatever you saw on TV comes to your imagination and your dreams. But in reality, how many people, I'm speaking more about your situation because you have an entity in front of you, he taught you and give you a mark, and hold that in yourself. It's traumatic. It's traumatic because it's very difficult, especially those decades. It was a taboo topic, because those days, if someone come up on TV, you start talking about the aliens and these new civilizations, and all those aliens have been residing in this planet before us. People there tortured. Those scientifics or research historians, they're crazy.
Yes.
Yes, and we can see historians, people like Dr. Samuel Kramer. He was one of the first about the Anunnaki, the Sumerians, and Babylonians civilizations, and he had struggles. And same thing with Dr. Federico Lara Peinado and all these fantastic historians people. And sometimes those bringing all this information brings contradiction with the Bible, with the religion. And I appreciate me as a person, and I feel very honored meeting you and you being my show, explaining. Me as a person, I believe you because I saw the commentary. I can see in your eyes your frustration, because you're still having the frustration, because you were holding that for decades. And this is something that is very hard to get cured. But yes, and thank you so much for sharing. And I'm thinking that we are living in difficult times, and I believe these entities, for some reason, they contact you or they prepare you for something. Don't you think about the Ultraman Japanese character? Let's speak in general, the comics, all the cartoons, the superheroes and all these things. Don't you think those people who create those characters are inspired by real aliens, races? Like maybe the Ultraman figure represents an alien civilization.
That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but what I will say is this, is that one of the things that I have learned through this process because making this movie was really therapy to me. It was really catharsis. One of the things that I have discovered is that we are all at our very center. We are all consciousness. Some people say we are all souls. Okay, use whatever word you want. Souls, consciousness. So I ask this question. If you took off your glasses and set them on the desk and stood away, would your glasses jump up and around? No, of course not. They need you to put them on, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So you would say you are a woman wearing glasses, right? You would not say you are glasses wearing a woman. That's silly. Like us, are we consciousness or souls wearing a body, or are we bodies wearing a soul? Now, this is a big topic, but here's something to think about. Have you ever had the situation where you're thinking of someone and all of a sudden the phone rings and it's them, or they're thinking about you and you call them, or you're in a crowd and you're staring at someone and they turn around directly and look at you, or the other way around? Okay, look, if this happened to just 2 or 3 people, that's a coincidence.
No.
This happens to everyone on the face of the planet. Okay, so why? Why is that consciousness is not in our heads, it's out here. And we are like antenna in that consciousness. So the ideas of all of Ultraman and Superman and all of these, they're out there, and this is why they are kind of intermixed and people pull them down, and they are archetypes. And that's why they're so popular, because people see this and they say, I feel a connection with this. I feel a connection with this. You know, I laugh sometimes. People walk through a Walmart and they see something on the shelf and they say, you know, I thought of that 6 months ago, but they never built it, right? There was somebody else. But how could somebody else think of the exact same thing? So to your question, if this is true, if we are consciousness or souls wearing bodies, so are the aliens. So their consciousness is intermixed with ours at some level.
Yes.
And this is, by the way, this is key. I'm certain that you've studied some of these cases where these aliens or these ETs do not speak. They don't use their mouth. They use their mental telepathy. Okay. So how do you really communicate with people? Words are difficult. Obviously, you have excellent English and excellent Spanish, I guess. Okay. I speak German and English. But how do you really speak? These words are just labels for emotions, for ideas, for pictures. And so in the telepathy that these aliens use, what they do is they don't use words. They use those images that are universal in the consciousness. Exactly. And that is why they communicate that way.
I agree with you. It's true. It's true. And we never know. Based on the research I've been, because I love UFO, and I've been studying more in ancient civilizations, the Sumerians and Babylonians, those type of topics. And I believe that in some way the humanity are connected with diverse alien races. And like you says, that's the reason many possibly some people have very high skills in medicines, or they have high skill in art, because maybe those entities transmit their knowledge to specific humans to benefit the humanity, entire humanity. I'm thinking, that's my personal opinion.
I think I agree with you. I do.
That's awesome. Awesome. And I love your when you bring the special guest, Mr. Whitley Strieber. Can you please explain how was your experience meeting with him, someone with extended experience with the UFO phenomenon?
Yes, yes, of course. Mr. Whitley Strieber is an international writer. He's an author. He's a speaker, and they have made television shows about his work and movies about his work. And he is in the 1980s. He had his own close encounters of the fourth kind, and he was taken. And he was brave enough to write about them in books. Communion was one. That's a very famous one. Transformation. And so A Secret School and many others. And so he wrote about them. And when I was putting the film together with my co-producer, Debs Shakti, I said, we really need somebody who has kind of an authority on this subject, someone who has not only experienced it and gone through the same things that I have, but had enough life to learn to deal with it and be able to speak about it. And so, as I said, many people think of him as an author and a speaker, but he is really a philosopher too, and a thought leader. And he, in the film, you have seen this, there are many parts which are very emotional. And then we cut back to him, and he is able to describe these things in kind of a logical way so that everybody can understand these things in a little bit more a generalized way that it appeals and applies to the viewer. The way I met him actually was through Debs. She had another contact, and then it was funny because Mr. Strieber is very careful who he talks to, because, as you know, look, this is a difficult topic, and there are not great people all over. There are some people who are not that very serious and not good, and so he was very careful and interviewed me. And when he knew that I was honest and I was genuine about finding out the information, then he allowed the interview. So we went out to Los Angeles and we interviewed him there.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So that's very great information that he explains in your documentary.
Yes.
And about how was your experience with Deb Shakti? She's
Deb
a
Shakti.
quantum, yeah, Shakti. Hard to pronounce her last name. And a quantum hypnotherapist. How about your experience be with her?
Sure. Thank you. Debs Shakti is an international quantum hypnotherapist. Now, let's unpack what that really means. If you had a terrible car accident, and you might say, listen, I can't remember anything about it, a hypnotherapist could relax you enough, get through the trauma, that you could remember, that was a blue car that hit me. And I can remember some of the license plate, and it was a man who was driving. So you could give details to the police. Quantum hypnotherapy is this idea that everything is connected, right? You've heard about near-death experiences where people are outside their body and they can actually see them, their own body. Okay, so this way is able to extract you from the situation. So in this case with a car accident, maybe you could be above the car accident and see that there was a little boy across the street who rolled a ball into the street, that the car swerved, and that's why he hit you. But with your eyes inside your body, you could have never seen this. It is a way to remove yourself so you can see the entire event. Okay, So what was happening is I was interviewing many people, trying to, for myself, I was having such a hard time at this point in my life. I was trying to interview people who had had experiences and had found ways to deal with them. And it came out in those conversations something, and I felt so stupid. For 45, 50 years, I never thought of this. I remembered every single thing of my experience, clear as day. I'm looking at you. This is the way I just lied about it. But there was one piece I could never put together. How did I switch places with that alien? We were struggling. There was a flash of light, all these colors, and then I was on the other side and he was there. And I could never figure that out. Now, I never thought of that. But when I was interviewing the other people for the movie, they said, hey, you know, did you ever think about this? I was shocked. I tell you, I was totally shocked. I thought, I have never, ever considered that. So in the development of the movie, I am very serious about finding out. Now that I told the truth and now that I'm getting to the bottom, I had to find out everything. And so they talked to me about Deb Shakti and we met. And I have to tell you, I thought, listen, you're not going to hypnotize me. Nobody can hypnotize me. And I'm embarrassed because because I'm kind of a big guy and she's this little tiny person. And I thought, you know. But she said, okay. And she said, look, I am not going to do anything except relax you, John, enough to go into your mind and open up that filing cabinet where you keep this information. You, John, will do all the work. So I didn't think that it could be done. And so she said, well, let's try. And so we had done a couple of trials and they were successful. And during these trials were just relaxation experiments to see if I could go under. And I could. She never talked about the abduction or anything. And I was serious about this because I wanted to film that. I wanted to see it for myself. I wanted to capture it to know for sure, for me. And then so in the film, as you know, she actually puts me under and I go there and I reveal all kinds of secrets. It was not Ultraman who took me. It was not. And it was not the typical gray that took me. I mean, there are things there that surprised me and surprised everybody who saw this. So it was very successful. And I can't say enough about this Debs Shakti. She is if anybody out there needed help, she is a loving person, like a guardian angel, and a very, very, very kind person. So that's Debs.
Yeah, she looks like a very beautiful soul person.
Yeah.
And do you think the entity who were in contact with you, he was a good entity or bad entity? Was your perception? Or maybe the electricity, because sometimes there's some entities that had bad appearance, but doesn't mean they are bad ones.
Yeah.
And there's some entities have a very beautiful appearance and they're very toxic. So in your case, how you can express about this entity?
As a 7-year-old boy, I thought he was evil. Because I was scared to death and he took me and I fought him. And I realized also that he had taken me before. But I mean, that's kind of a difficult question. Is a tiger evil? If you put your arm in a cage with a tiger and you bit your arm off, would you say that tiger is evil? Or would you say that tiger does what a tiger does? So I will say this, the entities who dealt with me I don't think they cared about me as a person.
They use you.
Yeah, they used me for their purpose, and in a broader sense, this is. I think their purpose is somehow joined with our purpose, and I mean the survival of our species. Yeah. So I don't know that I could call them good or bad. I would say that they just care about their agenda.
Their agenda.
Yeah. I think, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but think about this. You know, if we flew in a helicopter down on wild elk and we shot them with a dart, and we get out and we tag their ears so we can track them and all that. Okay, if the elk could talk, do you think the elk would say, well, man is bad or evil? Probably. You know, they would probably, because they'd be scared out of their minds. And I was petrified. Petrified.
Especially with the mark that he did to you and the
which is still
booster.
here. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very interesting. So after the hypnosis, now you can better remember now his appearance.
Oh yeah.
And how he looks like. How his looks like an insect or.
He is not a good-looking fella. He is dark, small to me now, but I mean my size when I was 7, and he had what looked like antlers, which came out of his head and also the sides of his jaw line. And in the film, as you know, we have an example of that.
An example.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with reptilian, draconians, gray, nothing like that.
No.
When I saw the film, and based on you are telling me now, he maybe is more to the insectoids.
Maybe, yeah.
There's some sources from UFO studies that those entities are toxic.
Yeah, yeah. I was mishandled by those guys. Wow. I was mishandled by those guys, and they did not care about me. You know.
You mentioned that you are in the speech preparation or something on film.
Say again.
You prepare for speech preparation to deliver some message that they give to you through images, all the things like that.
Yeah. What had happened was, and you see it on screen, is that those flashing lights were really a way to download information into me, and it was trapped in my head, you know, for all this time, and basically what it is, and you can see it in governments now, they all of this disclosure, they have to now. Trust me, they don't want to. They have to, because it's coming. And
so I'm sorry for interruption. So you, in other words, the humanity are very close to have a contact with
yes,
the.
Yes.
I have that feeling for that.
Yes, because and it will be like now. You know this. There are a couple different types of people, several different types of people. People say, trash. And then you have some people who say, well, maybe, but what does it have to do with me? And then you have people who say, hey, listen, this is interesting. We should talk about this. We should find out about it. Okay. When this happens, everybody, no matter what personality you have, will have to say, oh my God, this is happening now. It will no longer be a question of, well, maybe, no. And during that time, these couple different types of people will react differently. The people who rejected it all this time, they may lose their minds. They may be so shocked and afraid, they're totally unprepared. The people who thought, well, what does it have to do with my life? Who knows how they will react? Because when it's up here, this close, what do you do? And then the people like yourself who have discussed it, who have opened their minds and said, what are the possibilities? And this, you'll be much better to deal with something like this. And so for me, this is why I say in the movie, it will be terrifying and it will be beautiful. It will be horrible and it will be good. Because just like we said, you know, what is good and what is bad here? This is the next step for humanity. We are going to find out, number one, without a doubt, we are not alone.
Exactly.
Number two, and this is the scariest part. This is the absolute scariest part. It shouldn't be, but it is. We are going to find out, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we are not the top of the food chain.
Mm.
This is our problem. Think about the problems in society.
Mm-hmm.
Why do people fight? I am right. No, I am right. I am right. Nobody wants to say, well, what is the truth? They just say, I love this. My truth. Your truth? Okay. So did you write that truth? Did you create that truth? I don't know. I don't understand. But because it's all about ego.
Yes.
So we think that we are the strongest. We think that we are the smartest. We think that we are the most advanced, the most spiritual, everything else. Angela, this is not true. And when that happens, and this is what is so scary about the abduction, is that your ego is crushed. You no longer can control anything. You are completely helpless.
And you see that this event is coming soon, this year?
In my lifetime. In my lifetime. I'm 55. I will not die before it happens. It will happen.
Okay.
Very soon.
Awesome. Do you think the aliens are very selective to abduct people? They have their own specific group of people? Or do you think what are your personal opinion for that?
Yeah. We talk about that often. You know, people say, you know, well, why me? Why you? You know, I ask this question sometimes. I say, you know, was I blessed, or was I being punished? Mm-hmm. Because it felt like punishment. I will say this. I think that two things. I think that everybody on the planet has had some type of experience they can't explain.
Mm-hmm.
Something. They saw something out of the corner of their eye, something bumped into them at night, they saw something in the sky. Now, how they dealt with it, different thing. They might ignore it, whatever. Okay, but I think everybody. I will say this, though. If you walked into a room and everybody was speaking, I don't know, German, mm-hmm. but there was one person screaming in Spanish, you would recognize that. Mm-hmm. And you would probably walk over to that person and speak to that person, yes? Okay. Mm-hmm. And if they needed help or whatever, you would be able to communicate with this person, yes? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think that these ETs, because they deal with consciousness, they can feel and see energy. And I think that they can see us, you know, and they don't look at our flesh, but maybe the energetic part of us that is here. People have seen, you know, auras, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. They can see the energy. And I think what happens is they are attracted to energy that speaks the same language, mm-hmm. if you understand me. Mm-hmm. If the energy is open, then that is someone that maybe they are attracted to talk to. Just like you would be attracted to talk to somebody who speaks Spanish. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's that. So is that special? I don't know if that's special. I would just say that's the way we're built or designed.
Exactly.
or
Common
develop
sense.
now. Yeah.
It's true.
So I think that.
And what do you think about the blood type? Some UFOs investigators, they relate the Rh negative blood has a lot of things to do with abduction. What do you think about that?
I think that, like I was saying about energy, you know, I have this coffee cup, and to me, it's very solid. But the truth is, physicists will tell us that this is not solid at all. If you could see it through electron microscope, you would see the atoms moving like this. Okay, so if I could move faster and faster and faster, literally I could put my hand through this. I could get through those. Okay, so when you say Rh negative, that has a different energy than a positive. Okay, so I think, like I said, there are two things. I think, first of all, that particular energy gives off a signal. Okay. Now, where did that Rh negative come from? I believe, my personal belief, I don't know this, is through a breeding program with humans. And I think that, so I think that they were bred and I don't necessarily mean by the same entities. You know, I mean, we have scientists now who study other civilizations, right? But they can see the signs on the rocks or whatever, and they say, this is this civilization or this civilization, regardless of where they were born, right? So there's an energy given off by that. They can tell that it's somehow not completely human. So what they do is they visit them to continue that conversation.
I see, because
that's
for
my
example,
best guess.
Yes, what I see in your documentary, you mentioned countries that were reported abductions, and most of those countries have high level of Rh negative blood. That's called to my attention. It's like you says our opinion. It's just our observation.
We don't want hate. No hate mail, please. No hate mail.
No. Exactly. Yes, and there's another, because I like to read, I like to do my own investigations, and I heard also about the U.S. President M.C. Howard, that he was contact with the gray aliens, and he make an agreement to receive advanced technology to abduct U.S. citizens. But in reality, the Greys did not respect the agreement, and they make all these abductions worldwide. What do you think about that? Have you heard about that story?
I have heard about that story. Of course, I don't know that it's the truth, but I will say that there are many people who study UFOs and the history of UFOs and think that it really is the case. And I will say this, you can't trust the government to tell you the truth. Here's an example. No, we have no records on UFOs at all. Here's 15,000 pages of stuff that we've been... Well, wait a minute. If you did not study it, how do you have 15,000 pages of material?
Exactly.
You are lying. This is what my truth says. You are lying. Okay, so I don't think we'll ever get the answer from them. But what I will say is this, is that abductions have happened around the planet, on every continent. Yes, concentrated on those continents with the concentration of their blood, yes. But I would say I was totally amazed. And I tell you something personal. When that happened to me, I felt all alone as a little boy. And as a man, I felt completely alone. When I started to interview these people and realize that they weren't crazy, I mean, you know, the master's degree and their own companies and, you know, and mothers and fathers and lawyers and all these important people, real people, credentialed people, I realized that I was not alone. And this is funny to me, like ironic to me, is that that proved to me that I wasn't special because there were so many of us. I was not alone. And that actually gave me comfort, you know, that there were so many of us. And so there are, and I tell you true, there are millions of people, millions.
I believe you.
Millions. And to someone who is not ready to hear that, that is a scary, scary thing.
Or maybe the more cases are disclosed more because now it's not a taboo as before. And those people like you that were hiding in the shadows, holding to themselves, they're coming up in front and explain their experience. And now, and I'm thinking, just a personal opinion, that what we see in the world, what's happening now, it's very obvious that the war is not between political parties or governments. To me, it's alien civilizations fighting each other to control the planet. My personal opinion.
It's funny. I had a dream once, and once again, no hate mail, please, no hate mail. But I had this dream that the Earth was this colony planet, and that entities from different places in the universe or the galaxy were having problems with each other, fighting. And they said, listen, let's take some of our people and put them on this planet and wipe their memories. Let's see if they can live in peace with each other. And so the people from, you know, Europe came from one planet. People from South America came from another. And it is like an experiment. You know, I've heard somebody compare us to an ant farm as they study us and see, why do we fight? What makes us tick? So they, kind of like the United Nations, if you will, or Galactic Federation. I don't know any of this. Please, no hate mail, because I don't know. But I'm just saying that it's interesting to think about that, because you can see parallels, as you said. You know, it seems like these are aliens fighting each other. And really, what are they fighting for? A piece of land this big? You know, because if you think about it, the Earth is a speck. Our sun is this big, we're a speck. And then we're a speck, our solar system is a speck in a galaxy. That's a speck in a universe. We're a speck upon a speck upon a speck. We're nothing. And yet, we scream so loudly that we're important. And this is why we war. And I think, you know, you've heard many accounts, I'm certain, in your research about how these aliens, these ETs, this intelligence talks about, take care of the world. This is your world. What are you doing? You know, or you know, take care of each other. And a lot of people poo-poo that. You know, oh, that's just you know, liberal thinking, or tree huggers, or whatever. No hate mail, no hate mail. But what I'm saying is that if you pull yourself back and you take your ego out, you realize that everything is connected. You know, it's like this. You know, I would never cut my thumb off. I mean, really, do I need it? I mean, I still have my hand, but I would never do that because it's part of me. If we are all part of each other, if we all matter, if we're all in this together, then we probably would not harm each other. We probably would not burn each other's homes or fight with each other or kill each other. We probably would not do that. But we cannot get ourselves out of this ego.
And I think that's the reason, because now the humanity, step by step, is waking up, and the establishment, just, you know, the establishment in general,
yes.
They make all this pandemic, to make it more obvious to separate people. Because for them it's not convenient people get close to each other. But I'm thinking, I believe that the toxic entities are residing here from centuries, millenniums. But the good ones that are coming,
and they say,
want
"What
to
are you doing? What are you
exactly,
doing?"
and that's the reason we see what the farm marks they make with and in UK, for example. I'm thinking, my personal opinion, I'm thinking the good aliens are giving messages to the humanity because those people respect the universal laws in comparison to the other ones that they don't really care, and they make all the messy situation what happen in the world. And I'm thinking that we will see that alien contact because the good ones are coming, but the establishment has been working on their side with Hollywood movies, with my respect, with people who like them, to make people to believe or program their minds that, oh, whatever those guys coming from the outside are the toxics, but the toxic ones are here. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's very, think about this. That's very clever, isn't it? It's very clever. You know, I stab you in the back and I say, he stabbed you in the back. Look. And then you get mad at him. This is, it's really diabolical. It is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I what this film did for me was it took me through that fear, because fear is necessary. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh no, everything is wonderful," and that's not true. Look, you have to. If we're going to tell the truth, let's tell the truth. Okay? So, like you said, there is good and bad, and really, are they really good and bad? To us, they're good and bad. Some have our best interests in mind, and we call them good. The ones that don't have our interests in mind, we call them bad. Okay, so we have this situation where it is so different than us. Of course we're afraid. But in this movie, and you tell me, I hope that it worked, but in this movie, my hope was that I would take people with me from ignorance, meaning not understanding, not knowing, and fear, to some sort of understanding. You know, my movie is called Alien Abduction Answers. Somebody yelled at me the other day. They said, "Oh, Mr. Answer." I said, no. I didn't say the answer, the only answer. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm trying to say that, yes, I understand people are afraid. Yes, I understand people don't understand. I want to give them landmarks that they go, "Oh, that makes sense." They don't have to be afraid alone. They don't have to, okay? And so the next movie that I'm going to make is about taking people from having some understanding to some interrogation. So it's like this. If you knew that there was a road was washed out because of a terrible storm, okay? You would be afraid because of all the crazy stuff going on. But then you would say, okay, I know I was afraid, but now I know what happened. Okay, now I can take this information inside my mind and I can go a different way. Or I can go over, or I can deal with this because I don't have to be afraid anymore. It's still scary, but I can deal with it. Okay? So that's what the second movie is about. Like, after we accept the truth that we are not the biggest and the strongest, and okay, how do we deal with our lives? And then the final movie, I have an idea for a third movie, is about transformation. Okay, so now that we know that that road is closed and this road is closed, what does this mean for us as people? Where do we go from here? How do we engage? How do we evolve? How do we work together? And you know what? You are a great example. Deb Shakti is a great example. You have already passed through these types of stages and have taken this information in. And now you're living your life and you're doing good with that information. You're sharing it with other people, educating other people. God bless you. I know it's sometimes hard. God bless you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Yes, and I see your documentary, and I can tell anyone, it's more like a documentary. It's a therapy. It's a therapy, and also it's like you start like realizing that I'm not alone, if I was not able to talk about what I experienced, when I'm speaking in general, when anyone in public, in the audience, I strongly recommend to watch the documentary because it's not a simple documentary. It's something that will connect you. And then you start, like you said, the answers, because maybe the answers for me is different for the answers for the other.
Yes.
So I want so much your documentary can be translated in Spanish and other languages, because I think, especially in Mexico, there's a lot of cases. You can hear about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the film, I know maybe we're not at that part, but the film right now is available all throughout North America.
Yes.
And then in the autumn, it'll be available in the rest of the world.
Awesome. Yes, because it's very well. I like the photography, the guest. I was reading very well. I love it. My husband, he's a filmmaker, and he told me it's a top Hollywood style documentary. Speaking about the photography, the lights, and all the organization, is one of the best documentaries I ever seen in UFO. I love it so much, and I'm looking forward to have the physical copy. I like to collect physical copy, and looking forward to see in Spanish, because I want people, my friends, other people in Latin America can be able to watch the documentary. My husband is from Argentina. Argentina loves UFOs, phenomenon. So I'm so proud of you.
The DVD will be available. I think it's at the end of June, and it will have Spanish subtitles. Awesome. And it will have German and French. So I mean, that's just, if you have the physical one, you'll at least have the subtitles.
Awesome. So I can share to my parents and then my husband to his family. That's awesome. Yes. So it's wonderful. John, it was an honor to have you, and looking forward to continue, do more interviews with you and your upcoming projects. If you have a conference, keep me update what you're doing, and then I can keep the audience to connect with you. Thank you. Also how people can contact you, how can find you.
Sure. Well, the film is called Alien Abduction Answers. And if you Google that, you can find that we're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. If you're looking for me, my name is John Yost, Y-O-S-T. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Please feel free to reach out to me. Also, I work at the company that we produced. It is called RYNO Pictures, RYNO Pictures.com. So people can reach out if that's what they're interested in. We are working very hard to create the second movie, which will be called Alien Abduction Awakening.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, John. It was nice meeting you. Looking forward for more interviews with you. Looking forward for your upcoming projects, and I'm pretty sure people who are not watched your documentary will feel very amazing. Well, this is gonna be a amazing experience for them. Personally, I recommend it. Please watch Alien Abduction Answer. You can find it on Amazon and more diverse platforms.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Speak soon. Blessings.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.